Hello, fight fans, and welcome to Pride Resurrection. I am the most dangerous man alive today, and for this episode, I'm going to be trying a slightly different format. You may or may not like this, and unfortunately, there is no good vibe for this episode, but we'll see what we can do to work him in for the next one. So strap yourself in, friends and loved ones, as we review Pride 22, Beast from the East. Number 2. First, there were some errors and omissions regarding the last episode. According to friend and loved one Simon and Tom Tanaka and a couple others, there is apparently a kickboxer named Anderson Silva. I implied that the GOAT MMA fighter Anderson Silva had fought a kickboxing bout. I should have did my due diligence and actually checked this for myself before writing it down, but I didn't. Next, I mispronounced Mirko Cro Cop's name. I called him Mirko Filipich. It's actually Filopovich. I say mispronounced, but more accurately, I'm really stupid, and by memory, I actually thought it was Filipich. Sorry, fight fans, for my grave error. And lastly, we'll call this an omission. Last episode, I didn't know or really care what Ippon actually was in a judo match, but friend and loved one Eric Cromwell had this to say about it. Ippon in judo in 1992 was either a winning throw, it had to be a really hard throw, flat on their backs, a controlling pin for 30 seconds, or a submission, only arm locks and choke. The rules have been changed a lot in the last decade or so to keep it in the Olympics and make it a lot more exciting. But back then, it was a much tougher grappling sport. Thanks, Eric Cromwell, buddy old pal, we love you. And that does it for the errors and omissions. Now let's get into our review. Held on September 29, 2002 at the Nagoya Rainbow Hall in Nagoya, Japan, Pride 22 features 8 bouts of bestiality action. Around 9,300 people were in attendance for this one, and while that sounds like a low number when compared to the average attendance for the last 4 main Pride cards, including the quoted 93,000 in attendance at Pride Shockwave, the Nagoya Rainbow Hall actually holds a max of 10,000, and with the Pride stage, ramp, and ring setup, was probably a sold-out packed show. Pride was firmly in the top spot among MMA promotions in Japan. About 2 weeks prior to Pride 22, Shuto held their Treasure Hunt 10 event at the Yokohama Cultural Gymnasium, a venue capable of holding 5,000 people, and one I think is more suited for court-type sports like basketball or dance recitals. I think there was about 1,500 people in attendance for Shuto Treasure Hunt 10. I've returned to watching the American DVD rip for Pride 22 here, after the rather disappointing Japanese DVD rip we watched for Pride Shockwave, so that means we get Bas Rutten and Steven Quadros. Once again, Quadros brings up the fact that Bas Rutten fought one of the new and debuting fighters tonight, Kevin Randleman. That is a notorious fight, which I'll talk about later. Boss predicts that Randleman will knock out his opponent quick. Quadros then brings up that Heath is returning after 7 months layoff. And he also talks about Vovchanchyn versus Rampage, saying Igor has been training the past 6 months on boxing. Then they talk about Gracie seeking revenge for his brother Henzo against Shungo Oyama, seeing as Oyama won a decision against Henzo at Pride 21. We're then treated to the Parade of Fighters.
Kevin Randleman coming into Pride debut tonight.
After that, Boss is standing with Kevin Randleman, who, as I mentioned earlier, is debuting tonight for Pride. Boss asked Randleman what he has been working on.
What have you been working on lately?
I've been working on a lot of stand-up because when I fought you, I realized that my stand-up was pretty suspect. So now that I've been working a lot more stand-up and a lot more ground game with my coach, mentor, Mark the Hammer Coleman.
That's a very nice thing, a very good and smart thing to do. How's your groundwork?
My groundwork is getting really well. Before I was scared to be on my back. I'm like a turtle on my back when I'm on it. But now I move a lot more. I can't say I'm a jiu-jitsu guy or boss with the open guard, but I'm getting a lot better.
Yeah, but my open guard, a jiu-jitsu guy, I couldn't do anything to you, so I don't think you have to be worried about that.
You can tell that Rutten has a lot of respect for Randleman and vice versa, and this leads us into the first bout of the event, as we will see Kevin Randleman versus Michiyoshi Ohhara. Ohhara, if you recall, made an awful debut against Henzo Gracie back at Pride 17 in November of 2001. Maybe it wasn't all his fault though, as Henzo Gracie fights in Pride so far have been generally awful. I don't have high hopes for Ohhara's performance against Randleman, but we'll see. Randleman was 31 years old here. His MMA record was 11-5 coming into this bout. Ohhara was 34 years old, meanwhile, and his record was 0-1.
Kevin Randleman is as excited as you can get to be here in Japan. The monster, Kevin Randleman from USA.
Oh, he looks strong.
177センチ、102.5キロ。 Ohhara! Michiyoshi!
Kevin Christopher Randleman was born on August 10, 1971 in Sandusky, Ohio. He would become an elite athlete growing up. In high school, he started all 4 years on the football team, ran track, and had a 122-11 wrestling record, including winning the state championship in 1989. Randleman was a beast in college as a wrestler. He went to the finals of the NCAA tournament in his freshman year, and then won back-to-back NCAA championships in his sophomore and junior years, while an academic issue prevented him from competing in his senior year. One of Randleman's wrestling coaches was also a former NCAA wrestling champion, Mark the Hammer Coleman. Mark had transitioned to MMA by 1996 and won back-to-back UFC tournaments. After Randleman had left college, Coleman referred Randleman to an opportunity to fight in an MMA tournament in Brazil, the Universal Vale Tudo Fighting No. 4, which would be held in October of 1996. Making the journey to Brazil proved very fruitful for Randleman, as he scored 3 finishes at the tournament with 2 submissions and a KO, earning him the tournament championship. Kevin looked to repeat his success a few months later in March of 1997 at the Universal Vale Tudo Fighting No. 6 tournament, but he had a tougher go of it. He fought Carlos Barreto in the finals, a fight that went 22 minutes and saw Barreto score a dubious triangle choke submission, and Mark Coleman famously lost his shit.
Jiu-jitsu Randleman numa situação difícil, com as 2 mãos ele segura a cabeça, o triângulo encaixado com as pernas. Vamos ver se o Randleman consegue sair dessa situação. Acabou o combate.
Ele chegou a dar uma apagada ali, o Randleman.
Acabou o combate, vitória do Carlão. E ali o Coleman. O Randleman ficou realmente uma situação muito difícil.
Randleman stuck around Brazil for another tournament, a short 4-man heavyweight tournament at the Brazil Open of 1997. In the finals, Kevin had to face another amateur wrestling icon, Tom Erickson. Erickson, who had a massive size advantage over the questionable 5'10 Randleman, KO'd Kevin after 1 minute and 11 seconds. It took 2 years for Randleman to return to the cage when he landed a multi-fight deal with the UFC. During his UFC stint, he faced a murderer's row of opponents for the time. He beat Maurice Smith at UFC 19, then had to fight Boss Rutan at UFC 20, with the victor being awarded the then vacant UFC heavyweight title belt. Though Randleman would appear to control the majority of the action over 21 minutes, Boss Rutan was declared the victor via decision in what many call a robbery. Boss Rutan vacated the title later that year after deciding to drop down to light heavyweight. Rutan would famously suffer multiple chronic injuries in training during that time, leading him to retire. The then vacated UFC heavyweight title was put up for grabs once again at UFC 23 Ultimate Japan No. 2 in November of 1999. Randleman was pitted against Petey "My Heart" Williams, and Randleman won via decision and was crowned the new UFC heavyweight champion. Randleman would lose the heavyweight title to someone who was another amateur wrestling dream matchup, Randy Couture. This was at UFC 28 in November of 2000. After that loss, Randleman decided to drop down to light heavyweight himself, and he fought the Iceman Chuck Liddell at UFC 31 in May of 2001, losing in quick fashion via KO. Randleman had his last fight in the UFC against Renato Sobral at UFC 35 in January of 2002, which would be a decision victory. In Randleman's last fight prior to Pride 22 here, he fought Brian "Who" Foster at RFC, The Beginning, in July of 2002, where Randleman KO'd Brian in 20 seconds, and sorry, no video for that one. We unfortunately don't get walkouts for this fight. Michiyoshi is a funny-looking specimen. He looks like he could be maybe 50 years old, and he has his trunks pulled up over his belly button, much like an old man. At to stare down, my earlier statement of Randleman's questionable 5'10 seems justified. Ohhara himself is listed at 5'10, yet appears to have an inch or two over Randleman. It's a bit depressing when a Japanese man is taller than you. As for the fight, it has a lot of tension, especially when the bell rings for round 1. Ohhara begins it with an awful attempt to clinch and grab Randleman, who punches him in response. Randleman then cracks Ohhara half a dozen times and they clinch in the corner. Ohhara bum rushes Randleman and they clinch again. Quadras notes that Hidehiko Yoshida is in Ohhara's corner, and I will note that Randleman has Mark Coleman in his corner. And I ask you, fight fans, who would you rather have in your corner at this time?
Michiyoshi Ohhara has Hidehiko Yoshida, the man who defeated Hoist Gracie in the Pride K1 Shockwave show, which happened a few months ago. And he's been training with Yoshida. And that's two judo guys because Ohhara comes from a judo background also.
They separate with a Randleman punch. Ohhara hilariously can't seem to figure out this punching biz. Another flurry of punches from Randleman that mostly miss, and we are clinched in the opposite corner, and another separation by Yuji Shimada, our ref. Ohara's punches might be some of the worst yet seen in Pride. They clinch again, and at this point I am disappointed in Randleman's effort and performance. Ohhara is a very generous opponent from Pride. I'll give him credit, Ohhara is a durable fellow, but let's face it, a lot of these Japanese pro wrestlers put on by Pride are quite durable, notably Alexander Otsuka and Kazuyuki Fujita. With that said, Randleman should be having his way with his glorified sack of potatoes. Hilarious moment follows shortly after they are separated. Ohhara loads up and kicks Randleman, and Kevin casually counters with a hook, and Ohhara is down like a sack of bricks. Ohhara chooses to escape through the ropes to avoid getting mounted and pounded, and after pulling Ohhara back into the ring, Yuji Shimada rightfully issues a yellow card to him for being a complete pussy. The fight, unfortunately, is restarted standing, which is par for course with yellow card infractions. Just after the 5-minute mark, Ohhara manages to avoid getting knocked down again, and he decides now it would be a good time to taunt Randleman. While this is extremely foolish at this point in the fight, I have to say I can understand Ohara's confidence. Randleman hasn't hurt him yet. A little bit of Pride history is made right after this, as Quadros makes reference for the first time that the yellow card is not only a warning, but it takes away 10% of the fighter's paycheck.
The yellow card is a warning by the referee. They also deduct 10% of the fighter's purse if they receive a yellow card for an illegal act such as rolling out of the ring.
I believe this is a brand new rule. Randleman tries some wild punches with not much connecting. How much boxing training did he do before this fight? How bad was his boxing prior to this? Randleman's tank is a bit depleted here. Ohhara tries a punch and then the men clinch. Back in the corner once again, and we can see the rhythm of this fight. Here's a reminder why Stephen Quadros is known as the fight professor.
Obviously, Ohhara is not well versed in strikes, boss.
With 1 minute left, Boss Rutan says it best. This fight goes completely different than I thought it would be.
Oh, this fight goes totally different than I thought it would be.
And this is my exact feeling as well, and I'm feeling disappointed as round 1 ends. Hidehiko Yoshida is in the ring attending to his judo brother Ohhara as Quadros sarcastically asks Rutan where he would rank Ohhara.
Where does Ohhara's skill level rank with some of the other fighters in Pride?
I would say, to be totally honest, he would be the bottom, I think.
Randleman, meanwhile, looks fresher than he did midway through the round, and maybe his decreased output after the 5-minute mark might have been an effort to restore his gas tank. During the break, Quadros reiterates his point that Ohhara can take a shot, says that Randleman needs to conserve his gas tank. Quadros then says that Ohhara needs a miracle. Boss says that he doesn't think Randleman is tired, and it has to do with the 10-minute first round, and a lot of fighters who are not used to the 10-minute first round have the same reaction.
I think Ohhara's going to need a miracle to pull this one out. If it goes the distance, you can only hope that Kevin Randleman will get tired.
Yeah, it looks almost like Kevin is tired, but I think it's just also the 10-minute round system. He's used to 5-minute rounds, and then you come into Pride, you hear from other fighters too. They say the first round, it's a 10-minute round. It's kind of crazy, you know. It needs a lot of adapting, but so that could be the trick. He's rest now. He's got his right hand loaded up.
It's time for round 2, and
Round 2.
Okay, Ohhara coming out swinging.
Nice takedown there.
That was beautiful.
Randleman has Ohhara's back, delivers some hard shots. Ohhara crawls towards the ropes, tries to lock up the left wrist of Randleman. More hard shots, and Ohhara flips over. Yuji Shimada moves them out of the ropes. Quadros says Rutan knows what this position is like, being under Randleman.
Oh yes, I've been in this position for about 21 minutes or something with him. He's very hard to get off of you because he's got a very strong base.
We get another reposition from Shimada, and Ohhara, it would appear, is obviously dead tired as he lethargically gets up and plops down. Mark Coleman hilariously shouts, "Come on, he's dead!" at the sight of Ohhara crawling.
Swelled up, he's all swelled up, finish him off! Come on, he's dead!
Randleman hammers the body and the round ends. At the end of the round, Boss Rutan repeats something that Randleman apparently said about Tito Ortiz.
Can we say this on TV? Tito is a yes we can, because like a
Also in the round break, Quadros makes this reference once again.
So I would have to say, as I said in Championship Chaos last year,
give it to me, baby.
I'm going to have to say this one more time, folks. Ohhara's treachery has disgraced us again.
Ohhara's treachery has disgraced us.
Quadros, ever the fan of kung fu movies. In round 3, holy shit, Randleman beats Ohhara like he's a fucking rented mule. Randleman is huffing and puffing loudly. That was a lot of energy burnt, and it looks like he needs a rest. Another lethargic reposition. Boss and Quadros are saying Randleman should just pass the guard. Just pass the guard!
Pass the guard.
Just pass the guard.
Quadros starts to shit on the fight.
This is, I can't say they're doing less than nothing, but
Cap, you're not doing anything. Let's go.
Thank the Lord, Quadros exclaims as Yuji Shimada stands him up. Ohhara also gets another yellow card for being a complete pile of horse shit standing in a pair of wrestling shoes, and if he gets one more yellow card, he's disqualified. Randleman moves in and throws some shots. Ohhara turns his back to him and gets hit a couple more times. Normally, turning your back to an opponent in an MMA fight is grounds for a stoppage. I guess they haven't established that rule yet, though. What the fuck was that?
what's this? A drop scissor kick?
You serious?
Randleman tries to stick Ohhara with punches, and in the last minute, Ohhara gets crossed in hilarious fashion. Then the men hug it out to end the fight. Well, this one is going to go to the judges. I don't think we'll be too surprised, but let's see. What is the decision?
Getting 2 yellow cards along the way. Let's see what the judges think.
No. We're really surprised.
Judge Koyashi, Randleman. Judge Nishi, Randleman. Judge Arachi, Randleman. Yote Kevin Randleman.
No surprise, Kevin Randleman, winner via unanimous decision. Boss Rutan says Ohhara has no fighting skills whatsoever, and that it was jet lag as the cause of Randleman's performance.
But Ohhara was a lot tougher than people thought he was going to be.
Yeah, but tough doesn't mean anything. He has no fighting skills whatsoever. It was sad. I think jet lag, everything's... Kevin fights here in Japan, not used to the time difference. A lot of things involved.
Ohhara gets the fuck out of there, then Randleman, and then it's off to the next bout. This was a pretty overall bad fight. I guess I'm more disappointed than angry. I think everyone recognizes that Ohhara was not even worthy to polish Randleman's shoes. Randleman, for whatever reason, did not use his offensive wrestling, especially slams. I think he could have finished Ohhara if he was the aggressor more. Instead, he seemed to play it safe. Ohhara was awful, but he is durable, as I said earlier. I'll give him credit for that. This fight is a 5 out of 10. So what would become of our 2 hopscotching heroes here? Kevin Randleman will be back in quick fashion at Pride 23, where he takes on another Japanese fighter, Kenichi Yamamoto. As for Michiyoshi Ohhara, this was it for his appearances in Pride, and also the end of his MMA career. He was still under contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and while he wasn't very active in 2002 with only 4 matches, he would rededicate himself full-time in 2003, having 32 matches that year, wrestling mostly as Makai No. 3. In 2004, he was let go from New Japan and he went into freelance wrestling. He then joined Inoki's Genome Federation wrestling promotion and then retired in 2008 due to injuries suffered in a car accident. Happy trails, Michiyoshi, wherever you are. Quadros and Rutan introduce the next bout, and Quadros says people call Mezger Clark Kent, and Yamamoto, his opponent, better hope Mezger doesn't put on the Superman suit.
Lion's Den fighter Guy Mezger could easily be mistaken for Clark Kent, but his opponent, Norihisa Yamamoto, better hope that he doesn't put that Superman outfit on.
Yeah, I hope so too. You never know with Clark. we know he can do everything. I think he's going to take this fight to the ground, or he's going to keep it on his feet. Whatever he does, I think that Guy is the better fighter.
Quadros is then interviewing Mezger in front of a Glamour Shots backdrop, and Mezger is a real cocky dick here.
He submitted a giant in Jan Norchi with an armbar. Are you going to be afraid of him on the ground because of that?
You're kidding, right? You actually said that with a straight face to me. I can't believe that.
But I guess that's just his personality. You either love it or you hate it. Later, Quadros asks Mezger about who he wants to fight again. Mezger states Arona, and he must want to avenge the split decision loss he had against Arona. Quadros also asks him about Ken Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz, which was a fight that was upcoming in the UFC. Mezger says Tito hits like a wet newspaper.
Your good friend and trainer Ken Shamrock is going to be fighting Tito Ortiz in the UFC. Do you have any emotions toward that fight?
I mean, everyone thinks it's a big personal thing. It's, Tito tries to sell himself as I think is a cheap version of Tank Abbott. And Tank isn't much better than Tito. And Tito's a good, strong athlete. He's a good kid, good, strong athlete, but he has never ran into the brick wall that he's about to run into in Ken Shamrock. And, I've fought against both guys. And Tito hits like wet newspaper and Ken hits like a jackhammer.
We head to the ring for the fight, Guy Mezger versus Norihisa Yamamoto, or as I like to call him, Yoshihisa. Guy Mezger was 34 years old for this bout, and his MMA record was 28-13-2. Yoshihisa, meanwhile, was 32 years old, and his dubious MMA record was 12-14-1. Both men are making their Pride return in this fight. Mezger was last seen in Pride at Pride 16 in September of 2001, a full-year layoff for him as he hasn't seen action at all since then. Yamamoto was last seen at Pride 20 in April of 2002, where he got demolished by Bob Sapp, if you recall. It's Pancrase versus Rings, a dream matchup? It's taking place in a Pride ring. Worlds are colliding, heads are exploding. Though I wouldn't put Yoshihisa in the same realm as Mezger in terms of ability or skill, Yoshihisa maybe has that Japanese pro wrestler durability though. The excited, shrunken ring announcer handles the introductions for this one, and the crowd pops for him, or they pop for Mezger, I'm not sure.
And now for the second match. In the blue corner, from the United States of America, Guy Mezger.
Okay, Guy Mezger from Texas.
Woo! And he's looking good, Mr. Clark Kent here in his Superman t-shirt.
Yeah, Guy Mezger has not fought in the Pride Fighting Championships since the last Beasts from the East. And he wasn't real happy with the decision loss that he got with Ricardo Arona. So I think he's got something to prove tonight.
Yamamoto is already in the ring, and in his corner is Sakuraba. Parallels, as Mezger and Sakuraba had a famous fight at the Pride 2000 Grand Prix. Mezger is looking fit, and Quadros notes on his popularity here in Japan.
I hope he's done really good against this guy here.
Guy Mezger, extremely popular here in Japan, probably from his exploits with the Pancrase organization, where he was king of Pancrase. And Norihisa Yamamoto coming from the Rings organization.
There was some kind of delay in the stare down. Maybe Yamamoto's shoe was untied. And before this fight gets underway, I just want to say one thing. I swear, if Mezger fixes his fucking knee guards once in this fight, I'm gonna lose my shit. In round one, Mezger starts off strong, delivering combos to which Yamamoto simply absorbs like a sponge. Quadros then says that Mezger stated he has better hair than Yamamoto. Quadros also says that Mezger said that Yamamoto is ugly.
Well, Guy assured me that he has better hair than Yamamoto, but he did say that Yamamoto was ugly.
Wow. Quadros says that Mezger is executing a good kickboxing game right now, and Mezger is such a good wrestler he doesn't have to worry about takedowns. Quadros should have wrapped up this comment in a nice little bow by saying, and because his wrestling is so good, he can focus on his kickboxing, but Quadros doesn't. I did it for him. Oh well. Yamamoto isn't doing much. Mezger works around him. Quadros says that Yamamoto likes to date women to keep himself relaxed. Okay.
Speaking of relaxation, Yamamoto told us the other day that he likes to date women to relax.
Quadros and Boss talk a bit about Mezger versus Sakuraba, as Sakuraba had told Yamamoto that Mezger is a well-rounded fighter. To this day, I believe that Mezger won that fight under the rules that were agreed upon, that is, one single round, with no overtime round. Quadros then brings up Mezger's right hand and how it put down Chuck Liddell. Speaking of that, Mezger versus Liddell might be one of my favorite Pride fights of all time. Nice combo by Mezger. Yamamoto gets off 2 body kicks. After an inadvertent eye poke, the action gets pretty heavy before ending with a tie-up against the ropes. The tie-up moves to the corner, gets broken up, and then Mezger fixes his fucking glove! Mezger! Rah! Oh, wait. It was his glove. It wasn't his knee guard. Okay, so that doesn't count. There's a surprise as Mezger delivers a punch and sends Yamamoto to his ass. Mezger rushes in and roundhouses Yamamoto to the face as he is getting up, then knees and punches in the corner. Then Mezger exits with punches. Mezger gives Yamamoto props, clearly saying, "You're tough."
Yamamoto apart.
You're tough. You're tough.
They mix it up, Mezger with a spinning back kick. Mezger should show Yamamoto how to fix his fucking knee guard! With 1 minute left in the round, well, not a whole lot happens and the bell rings. Mezger is now having a bad hair day. What was he saying about Yamamoto having worse hair than him? In round 2, there's some good trading from the men as Quadros recounts all the great fights in Pride Mezger has had. Sakuraba, Silva, Liddell, all losses though. Mezger is kind of coasting here and he is letting Yamamoto off the hook. Yamamoto, well, he isn't doing much. Interesting kicking from Mezger, then some good trading. Wow, Yamamoto is really good at absorbing damage. Mezger straight up shoos him in the face. Yamamoto barely flinches.
Nice, right? Nice!
Talk about a hard head. Mezger kicked him right in the head.
But beautiful work from Mezger, looked great, but maybe lacking power. Yamamoto is now cut in the forehead. Yamamoto covers up in the corner and Mezger beats on him, but he just can't put him away and time winds down. Yamamoto is just there, being a very hard head, says Boss. In round 3, Yamamoto is kicking and the men mix it up. Then they really mix it up. Quadros notes that Yamamoto has been beat by a bunch of monsters. Ricardo Morais, Semi Schilt, and Bob Sapp. Maybe that's why his head is so hard, I wonder. Mezger keeps punching Yamamoto. Yamamoto once again completely turns his back. Mezger doesn't take advantage though. Kind of a strange moment, and even Quadros is confused by this.
And you heard that.
Come on, kick him. What happened? I don't know.
This could be it.
I mean, there's scientific fighting, but he had a clear chance to win the fight with a high kick.
Yes, right high kick.
He wonders why Mezger doesn't throw a high kick. Mezger keeps chopping away, but Yamamoto isn't falling. Quadros is befuddled on why Mezger hasn't stopped Yamamoto yet. Boss tries to explain the difference between training and actually fighting.
Do you think it's possible that Mezger didn't train as intensely for Yamamoto because he didn't have the kind of respect he did for him as he would for Arona or Vanderlei?
No, I think he did. I think it just everything together. People don't realize once you're standing in that ring, you don't have unlimited energy, and you look fresh.
Unless you're ninja.
Unless you're ninja, yeah. You're 21 years old, and not 35. So people, he may look fresh, but he can be real tired.
30 seconds left, Mezger sticks Yamamoto with a straight right, and Yamamoto goes down, but Mezger looking gassed, and he just doesn't follow up. And then he gives it one last try at the very end of the round, but Yamamoto has stayed up. Yamamoto is going to have some bruises, that's for sure. Hey look, it's Trey Teligman. He has no right tit. I like Trey, even though he has no right tit. Those could be lyrics to a Tom Petty song. No surprises, Mezger wins a unanimous decision. This fight was 95% Mezger, 2% Yamamoto, and 3% Sakuraba. I think Yamamoto maybe scored one significant strike during the whole fight. Yamamoto wanders away. Mezger high-fives Rutan, then he grabs himself a babe from the audience. Wow, nice. Maybe he's got a second win for another 3 rounds, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And that does it for this fight. Overall, I like this fight. Yamamoto, I'm not sure what his issue is. Like many Japanese fighters we've seen in Pride, he just doesn't really want to fight. He wants to take punishment. Maybe all these Japanese fighters are secret masochists. That's the only explanation I have. Or maybe the nature of Japan being a pacifist nation after World War II has been drilled into young Japanese men so much that they're afraid to attack and actually maybe hurt somebody. Anyway, I give this fight a 7 out of 10. So what would become of our 2 Japanese lover boys here? Both men will return at Pride 24, Cold Fury 3 in December of 2002. Yoshihisa takes on a man who is fighting next on the card, Alexander Otsuka. Should be an interesting matchup. Mezger takes on Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, Little Nog, not the heavyweight champ Nog. That will be Mezger's last ever Pride and his second to last MMA bout, so it'll be a bittersweet moment. Quadros and Boss introduced the next fight, Alexander Otsuka versus Anderson Silva. Boss is much like me, instinctively calling Otsuka Otsuka, and holy shit, Quadros is fucking brutal here.
It's pretty much the end of the fight. Can he do it with Otsuka? I don't know. Otsuka is probably going for the takedown right away because that's his only key to victory.
Because otherwise he may have to get a job working for Everlast as a punching bag.
Anderson Silva was last seen in Pride at Pride 21, where he got a doctor stoppage early against Alex Stiebling. And Otsuka returns after last fighting at Pride 20, where he lost a decision to lump of shit Sanae Kokuda and was the recipient of a grotesque lump on his head. Otsuka was 31 years old and his MMA record was 2-1 coming into this fight. Silva, meanwhile, was 27 years old and his record was 9-1. It's like the men are fighting the bizarro version of each other here. No walkouts, Anderson warms up his wrists. I do like the evil twin version of Anderson Silva here with the dark goatee. Also, we get the good twin version of Vanderlei Silva with a full head of hair. Interesting parallels, as Vanderlei Silva previously fought Otsuka and got lucky with the doctor stoppage of Otsuka midway through the third round. Otherwise, Otsuka was going to go the distance. After the ring introductions, Quadros says that Otsuka is the former pro wrestler.
This one's going to be a lot like a destruction derby. I love that wrist thing.
Yep.
Anderson Silva, the man who proclaims that he was born to fight, and he said he's better than Roy Jones at Valley Judo.
Thank God that he said those last two words at the end, huh? Valley Judo.
Alexander Otsuka, the former pro wrestler. He does not do pro wrestling anymore.
To what? Become a fighter full time? I don't believe it. Otsuka is wearing bright orange and yellow trunks, a better choice than his hot pink and blue trunks. In round 1, Silva is light on his feet and gets snagged by Otsuka and taken down, and I must say, that was a pretty slick takedown. Otsuka is in guard. Silva briefly attempts to set up a triangle. Silva is busy with maybe a sweep, and Otsuka moves to my favorite, freaky mount, but doesn't quite get it and settles back into guard. Otsuka does a pickup and slam, then Silva is going for a triangle again. And though it's claimed that he's got it, quote unquote, Silva has no control over Otsuka's body whatsoever, and Otsuka's defending. And Silva doesn't have it. Otsuka grinds his knee into Silva's face, then they fall and roll, and Otsuka pops out of it. Very nice sequence.
Oh no, triangle going.
Oh, he's got it, boss. He's got it.
He's going to get it. He's got it.
He's got it. Otsuka will be forced to tap out here. He's moving around. Otsuka really defending here, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it.
No, right now he's in a safe position still. Silva has to bring his arm, Alexander's arm over to the other side.
Silva's got to look out for the left knee, though. The left knee.
This Alexander is studying good. Whoa, look at this. He's got
Alexander Otsuka got right out, and it looks like he's almost got right back in.
The escape is in the Boston Big Book of Combat.
Aha, boss, you fucking shell. Otsuka seems to be bleeding. I think it's from the same spot where he had that band-aid back at Pride 8. Baby shots from Otsuka, and Quadros confirms that Otsuka is committed full-time to pro fighting now and not pro wrestling. I still don't believe it. But you know what? Checking cagematch.net proves that, well, I'm wrong. And I guess Otsuka did give up pro wrestling during this time. He has no matches in pro wrestling listed in 2002. So, yeah. Otsuka was giving it his all. Silva spins to maybe take a leg, possibly a sweep, and he nearly gets on top, but Otsuka manages to resist, stay on top, and is in half guard. The men grapple on the mat, and Silva winds up taking Otsuka's back. Some hard winging shots by Silva. Silva uses a body lock to turn into a back mount, then blasts Otsuka a couple times, then falls back for a rear naked choke, but misses the chance to secure it, and Otsuka, still defending, is surprising me, but I shouldn't be surprised because Otsuka has been tough to submit in the past, most notably an armbar from lump of shit Sanae Kokuda in their match at Pride 20. Silva tries for a rear naked choke again. Otsuka momentarily gets out, then Silva goes hard for it again, cranking this time, and Otsuka seems to help Silva move the arm under his chin, and Otsuka looks finished here, but then his head just pops out like a wet cherry from a sundae, and that reference made no fucking sense. Quadros and I appear to think alike, as Quadros makes a reference to the Sanae Kokuda armbar.
Yep, we saw this many times with Otsuka.
Otsuka in his last fight against Sanae Kokuda was in an armbar that it was like a perfect armbar, and he just would not tap out.
Yeah, everybody would have tapped in that one, but he didn't.
Silva still has his back, and they roll and move around the mat. 1 minute left. Otsuka is bleeding from the nose, but he is known for that. Silva tries for a rear naked choke one last time, then the bell rings, ending round 1. Boss says this fight is so far the fight of the night, and Quadros claims that Anderson said he was the best fighter.
Anderson Silva is not cocky, but he said, I think I am the best.
In Shoebox? The world? Quadros doesn't clarify that part. What a geezer tidbit. Quadros says this little nugget about Otsuka.
Alexander Otsuka, one of the nicest guys you would ever meet, said he would like to do movies where he portrays an average working businessman with a nice conservative haircut, which is a little bit of a stretch from his shaved head look. But even though he's got the shaved head look, and many times people with shaved heads look like tough guys or bad guys, this guy still, you can't hide the fact that he's just a real nice guy.
In round 2, Otsuka does whatever this is. After he executes a nice shot and takedown, Otsuka does casual work from guard. Otsuka works into side control. After Anderson threatens with maybe an omoplata, then Otsuka goes right back into guard. A lot of energy for nothing. More semi-active work from Otsuka in top position, and then slightly less active work from Otsuka, which lasts until the bell rings, ending round 2. Quadros and Boss talk about who's winning, and well, I would say the fight is pretty even through 2 rounds, and this is definitely a fight that will be won or lost in the final round. In the third and final round, Otsuka secures another sharp takedown. Well, he's won. Otsuka tries to slam Silva, then tries to pass the half guard. If Otsuka pulls out a win against Anderson Silva, Quadros says it would almost be humiliating.
If Otsuka pulled out a win against Anderson Silva, that would be almost humiliating.
Otsuka works a neck crank, then nearly falls into an armbar, then triangle, and then omoplata. Wow, Silva with hair trigger submissions here. Otsuka moves the freaky mount to get out of it, then grabs for an ankle. Gets shooed away, Silva is up. Otsuka dives for the hips. Silva sprawls, is pushed against the ropes, and we rest briefly. Great sequence there. Otsuka takes Silva down. Ref reposition. Otsuka holds Silva down, does little chopping shots. His output is very steady, and he keeps grinding away with little short shots. Otsuka is winning this fight. With 1 minute left, Otsuka is still on top. He postures up, goes to sit down for what? A leg lock? Both men fight for ankle or heel. Silva is the one that winds up with a full-fledged heel hook attempt, then knee bar, but Otsuka survives, and the round ends. Quadros says that Silva went for more finishes than Otsuka, and yeah, that's true. But I think Otsuka controlled the fight more after the second round. He was aggressive in his ground and pound too. I would give him the victory, but what do the judges think?
判定を出します。ジャッジ西アンデルソン、ジャッジ和田アンデルソン、ジャッジアンデルソン、よってきました。
You're right, Steven. Yeah, there it is, Anderson Silva. Even though Otsuka made it more competitive than most thought it would be, it was Anderson Silva who dictated how the fight was fought.
Anderson Silva is declared the victor via unanimous decision. Well, I think Otsuka at least deserved a split decision loss, if not a split decision win, but oh well. Otsuka leaves, Silva gets his trinkets of victory, and we are whisked away to the introduction of the next fight. This was another solid fight. Sure, it didn't have a finish, and it was not as good as Mezger versus Yamamoto, but it was better than Randleman versus Ohhara. I give this fight a 6 out of 10. Otsuka's not done with his MMA career yet. He sets his sights on Yoshihisa Yamamoto at Pride 24. Come on, he's got to win that one, right? Silva, meanwhile, will be back at Pride 25, Body Blow, in March of 2003 to take on a returning Carlos Newton. After that, Quadros introduces us to Paulo Filho, or Filho as he says.
Brazilian top team is a name synonymous with some of the greatest fighters in the sport, and it looks like Paulo Filho is another one of that breed. But he's got to get past Akira Shoji, and Shoji looks like he's in great shape.
He is in great shape. He's been training with Matt Hume and with George Barnett, and he's lost about 22 pounds, 22 pounds, which is a lot.
Akira Shoji has been training with Matt Hume and Josh Barnett and has lost 20 pounds according to Boss. Wow. It's Paulo Filho, 24 years old, from Brazil and making his Pride debut, versus Akira Shoji, who was 28 years old for this bout. We haven't seen Shoji since Pride 18, Cold Fury 2, back in December of 2001. Since then, he's fought once at King of the Cage 13, Revolution! Held on May 17, 2002 in Reno, Nevada. He beat unknown David Roberts via submission in the second round. His overall record stood at 9-7-5. Paulo, meanwhile, his record was a perfect correct, 4-0. Paulo Filho was born on Governador Island, the largest island in Guanabara Bay in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, on May 24th, 1978. He began training judo at around age 8 and enrolled in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu shortly after under Carlson Gracie. He earned his black belt from Carlson at age 20. Up to this point, he has had 4 pro fights, beginning in July of 2000 for the Heroes promotion in Brazil. At Heroes 1 on July 24th of 2000, he beat Luis Claudio des Dores in the second round via submission to strikes. Filho then boarded a plane and went to Japan, where he had a trio of fights against some well-regarded Japanese talent, the first of which was Kiichiro Yamamiya, the fight taking place at the first Deep event on January 8th, 2000. Filho KO'd Yamamiya in the second round. Then he fought Ikohisa the Punk Minowa at Pancrase Proof 2 in March of 2001, with Filho winning the bout via decision. The third and final Japanese opponent for Filho was the venerable Yuki Kondo, a 2-time king of Pancrase. The fight went down at deep second impact, and Filho won via unanimous decision, and that brings us here to Pride 22. We get Akira Shoji's walkout, and even though he's in a gi, you can tell he's lost 20 pounds. His face is smaller, slimmer. He looks handsome. Bob Sapp is in the walkout crew for Shoji, and now I know why Shoji lost all that weight. Bob Sapp was eating all his food, that fucker. In the ring, wow, Shoji is looking great.
Both these guys are built so similarly.
Ohhara, 172センチ、88.5 キロ、Paulo Filho!
From Brazilian top team, Paulo Filho with the Pride heavyweight champion, Minotauro Nogueira in his corner.
172センチ、91キロ、Shoji Akira!
Akira Shoji.
Filho, with heavyweight champion Minotauro in his corner, is himself in excellent shape. And you know what? Filho looks shockingly similar to Ricardo Arona. Shockingly. As for the fight, in the first round, Filho distracts with punches, then grabs Shoji and they jostle for position. Filho works the body, knees the thighs, knee up the gut by Filho, then he pushes for a takedown, but Shoji sidesteps him, briefly takes his back, and then Filho turns into him. Shoji with light work from the guard, then Filho tries for an armbar through the ropes, and wow, Shoji is tapping out of nowhere.
Maurice Smith for really improving his overall physical conditioning. But he had this to say about Matt Hume, the head instructor over there at AMC. He said he's
armbar. There we go.
Oh, he's got him! He got him! Paulo Filho! Unbelievable. Quick as lightning. Armbar, Akira Shoji.
And he set it up like it was for the other arm, and then he took the other arm. Once he replayed, this was perfectly.
Very slick work by Filho. It's the first time Shoji has ever been submitted in his whole career, I believe. Filho is declared the victor via submission at 2 minutes and 48 seconds of the first round. Shoji beats himself, literally. It's a tough loss. I understand Shoji feeling how he does. He put in a lot of work for this, obviously. He looked great and didn't really get to show off the fruits of his labor. And you know what? It happens. You get caught. Let's hope he doesn't take it too hard and comes back. This was a quick fight. Good showing from Filho. I give it a 6 out of 10. What would become of our two capybara combatives here? It would be about 6 months until Shoji came back, and that would happen at Pride 25, where he faces off against Alex Stiebling. That will be Stiebling's final appearance in Pride. As for Filho, I'm not sure what happened, but he would take over a year off from fighting entirely. He would have 2 fights outside of Pride before he returns to the Pride ring, both in 2004, including one against Daijiro Matsui outside of Pride in Gladiator FC. Filho will mark his Pride return at Bushido 4 in July of 2004. He will return to take on Akira Shoji? Okay. Quadros is interviewing Herring and his hair. His fucking hair.
Now, it almost seems to be a ceremonial thing when I bring Heath Herring onto the camera. But Heath, we got to take a peek at that hair.
Okay. Okay, there it is. And I like that. I like the fact that the blotch is a little bit off to the side. Yeah.
Quadros notes that dark patch is off center. Maybe Herring's hairstylist has a lazy eye. Wah wah. Quadros asks him if he wants another piece of Nogueira.
The fight with Minotauro Nogueira was one of the greatest many of us have seen. Would you like another piece of him?
Of course. That's what we're here for. We're here to be the best in the world. And right now he's got the belt and he's number 1. So that's what we're shooting. We want to be at the top of the mountain, not the bottom.
Boss gives his insight. Quadros talks about Yuriy, or Ikuri as he calls him.
Herring is back after a 7-month layoff. and he's fighting Yuriy Kochkine from Russia.
Yeah, that's a difficult name to pronounce.
Yes, it is.
Heath Herring is back, like you said. He's got something to prove. We don't know anything about the Russian guy. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I call him the Russian guy.
He is also called Igor on his title card. To the ring, sans walkouts. Yuriy looks like a Romanian gypsy. Herring looks in amazing shape, very sharp with his goatee.
TCH, Texas Crazy Horse, Heath Herring.
青コーナー185センチ109キロ高知県ユーリ
He is from the Russian top team. He is Yuriy Kochkine.
赤コーナー184センチ110キロ
Against the Texas Crazy Horse, he looks to be in phenomenal shape.
Oh, he does.
Yuriy Kochkine, born December 21st, 1963 in Yekaterinburg, Russia. He was trained in Kyokushin karate, and although I'm told he's a competent grappler, he appears to have not much, if any, sambo training under his belt. So it's a bit strange that he would make his initial combat sports debut for rings in 1997, considering the usual Russian contingent of fighters for rings were Volkan-sourced men. His debut came at a time when rings was still a worked promotion, meaning the fights were predetermined. His debut against Ricardo Moraes at Rings Fighting Extension 4 in June of 1997 went to a draw. Yuriy wasn't seen for 2 years after that in combat sports, anywhere. He made a surprise return at Rings King of Kings 1999 tournament, and during that time, Rings had made the switch to real shoot fights. At the opening rounds of the King of Kings 99 tournament, he beat Alistair Overeem via decision early in the evening, before dropping to Minotauro Nogueira via armbar later that night. He beat Alistair Overeem again via decision again at Rings Russia versus the World in May of 2000. He then lost to Jupe Kalstein via decision at Rings Holland. Heroes live forever in January of 2001, and then fought in a Russian MMA tournament in May, finishing 2 men, and I assume winning the tournament? Not sure, as I don't have that event, and I don't think anyone does. And that's all I can tell you about Yuriy Kochkine. Our ref will be Minoru Toyonaga. He fought once in Pride. Remember that? For the fight itself, Herring is absolutely raring to go. The bell rings and he charges in, and both men exchange stiff straights. Yuriy tries to kick Herring, who grabs his foot and takes him down. Yuriy is a karate guy, but as I said, I was told he's a good grappler. Heath tries to work some ground and pound. Quadros notes that Kochkine trains with a later debuting stern dad, Andrei Kopylov. Herring jumps out of guard, tries a stomp, then gets down into a long side control. There's a lot of blood on the mat. From where? I don't know. Herring spins above Kochkine, who tries to stand up. Herring knees him in the face. Kochkine stands up. Herring attacks with another kick/knee to the face. Kochkine weaves. Herring barrels into him into the corner, then takes him down and lands in side control. They fight for control of their arms. Kochkine turns and Herring knees his head. Kochkine stands up. The men break away. Herring needs to take a breath. They stumble to the mat. Kochkine is taking Herring's back, but fails to get his hooks in. Herring lays back. Kochkine has little control. Herring turns into him and is now back on top. Kochkine maybe thinks of a triangle, then Herring passes the side control. Herring knees. The crowd cheers. Another choppy knee. Yuriy is trapped. Herring goes for an Americana, but Yuriy does not give up.
He's working it. There we go for the armbar.
Oh, he's got the V-lock, and this guy's going to be in trouble.
He's going to bring his hand out.
Yeah, because he just got his other arm trapped.
Quadros, quote, loves when the guy says that.
You give up? I love when the guy says that. It kills me.
Yuriy then spins and he has escaped, getting applause. Both men stand, Yuriy looking tired. He tries a kick, then a 1-2. Herring shoots for the leg. Yuriy sprawls and then tries for an armbar, but Heath pushes out of it and winds up in side control. Heath works the body, then slowly sets up an Americana, but so is Yuriy, and Yuriy uses it to get to his knees. Yuriy tries to stand and fails, but Herring falls to half guard. Yuriy still has Herring's left arm. Herring's out of it, then slips to side control, then moves to a north-south position, and just like he did with Mark Coleman, Herring starts raining down the knees, and keeps raining them down until Minoru Toyonaga, our ref, dives in to stop it.
Room the last couple of days at the Hard Rock Cafe, but I'm getting sick of eating there, boss.
Yes, no more for us.
Yeah, no more hard.
Oh, nice knees.
The fight is almost over here.
These are the knees that can finish the whole fight.
There it is. Whoa, there it is. A good call. A good call.
Yuriy doesn't seem happy over that stoppage as he chastises the ref over the call. Well, okay, put them back in the same position and let Herring continue. How about that, you fucker? Herring is the victor via TKO at 7 minutes and 31 seconds of the first round. Herring celebrates, Yuriy complains. Herring's little brother makes a quick appearance, and holy shit, the kid is like 7 feet tall. Quadros defends the ref stoppage. Herring jumps towards the crowd. Yuriy departs, and that does it for this fight. I enjoyed this fight even though I had no idea who Yuriy was. Yuriy seemed like just another random Russian guy Pride found, similar to Igor Borisov or Denis Sobolev. I mean, Yuriy looked tough and might be a capable fighter, but I don't think he was prepared for the hard-hitting, aggressive style of Heath Herring. Herring looked good, but he usually does. I give this fight a 7 out of 10. Well, after this, we will see Herring again very quick at Pride 23, the next event. There he takes on another Russian, Fedor, in a big matchup that will set up the next contender for the Pride heavyweight belt. As for Yuriy, this was it for his Pride appearances. He would only have 2 more pro fights in his career, with the next bout for him coming in November of 2002 at Rings Lithuania, Bushido Rings 5. There, Yuriy takes on Mindaugas Kulinkakas. This event is called Shock, and in a shocking twist, I, for some reason, own this event, and I think it's the only Rings Lithuania event I have, so enjoy this rarely seen footage. In this fight against the Lithuanian Mindaugas, Yuriy would fall to a TKO in the first round. Yuriy would take about 2 years off after that, deciding to dust off his gloves and give it one last go. This happened on August 20th, 2005 at Rings Russia, Sis versus the World. This is an event I would love to get as it features Mikhail Olukin, Sergey Karnatanov, and Shiosi Kosaka. At that event, Yuriy took on Milko Vorn, Dutch fighter who had an impressive record of 13-4-1. Yuriy submitted him in the first round via Kimura. Yuriy, satisfied with what he had accomplished, retired to the countryside of Romania to raise a family of gypsies. Up next, Boss Rutan is interviewing Mario Sperry. Boss asks him how he stays relaxed. I'm going to take a guess before he answers. Bitches and cocaine.
I want to ask you a question before. What do you do to stay relaxed?
Yeah, that's my job, so if I'm stressed all the time, I'm going to die quick, so I prefer enjoy it.
Boy, was I way off. Quadros and Boss then break down the fight. Mario Sperry versus the long-awaited debuting stern dad himself, Andrei Kopylov. Sperry was 1 day into his 36th year. His birthday was a day prior to Pride 22. His record was 9-2. Kopylov, meanwhile, was 37 years old, and his record is listed at 5-9, but it's got some bullshit fake fights listed in it, like most Fighting Network Rings fighters. Andre is a multi-weight class Sambo champion who was a mainstay of the Russian contingent of the Fighting Network Rings promotion. He debuted for Rings back in July of 1992 at Mega Battle 6 Hayate, held at the Furitsu Gym in front of about 6,300 people. He defeated Vovchanchyn, who was the main Russian scouted fighter to form the Russian faction of Rings, and it shows that Kopylov was held in high regard by someone. You debut for the promotion and defeat the top guy of your faction on your first event? The next month, Kopylov was put in his place as Akira beat him in the main event of Mega Battle 7. After that, Andre would have about 25 or so appearances in fake Rings events through the 1990s, mostly splitting his wins and losses. In 1995, Kopylov got his first taste of real fighting, and it came at a Rings Holland event. You see, Rings Holland was a separate beast entirely from Rings Japan, and all Rings Holland events were purely shoot fighting affairs. Well, except for Akira Maeda's one and only appearance in Holland. Kopylov was confident enough in his abilities that he volunteered to appear and fight for real at the very first Rings Holland event, Free Fight number 1. He fought Hans Nijman, similarly old-looking Dutch fighter who, in an unrelated factoid, was gunned down in 2014 via automatic rifle fire in Amsterdam while reversing his car in an alleyway. Anyway, Kopylov got the shit kicked out of him by Nijman. Kopylov did pretty well in the 99 King of Kings tournament. He made it past the opening rounds, utilizing leg submissions to dispatch his first 2 opponents. These leg submissions are an important fact, so pay attention for later. In his first match of the finals of the tournament, he ran into Minotauro Nogueira, Brazilian top team, top star, the parallel, seeing as Mario Sperry is also Brazilian top team and Kopylov himself is Russian top team. To the surprise of everyone, including his family in attendance, Kopylov survived Nogueira and went the distance, though he lost to decision. Kopylov had some more fights in Rings after that, assumedly all real fights, including one against Ricardo Orona, a decision loss at Rings Millennium Combine 1, and Dan fucking Severn, no shit, at Rings Millennium Combine 3. I hope you are as stunned as I am. I guess I never paid that much attention to Dan Severn's record. I mean, he has like 200 fights in his career. Kopylov's fight against Severn was another decision loss. While Kopylov hasn't been the most successful fighter in his career, he can be credited for his teaching skills as he and Vovchanchyn together formed the Russian top team, and Kopylov had been helped training the likes of Fedor and future debuting Pride star Sergei Kharitonov, who makes his Pride debut at the first Bushido show in 2003. And that's all I have to tell you about Andrei Kopylov. After the Sperry interview, Boss wonders if age is going to be a factor in this fight. Yeah, age should be a huge factor considering Kopylov is a whopping single year older than Mario Sperry. Boss, what the fuck? You know, you really have to feel bad for Kopylov. Boss clearly doesn't even know his age. Boss is just judging Kopylov on his dumpy old looking face, bald head, general weathered and hairy Russian body, and his hilariously stupid dad stash. Kopylov, that poor bastard, then has to walk out to the ring as Quadros dresses him down, calling him an accountant or, quote, somebody's dad. Boss then delivers the final piss-taking, feigning shock when told his age. 37? Wow!
Pride 22! 本日の第6試合を行います
And now for the sixth match.
青コーナーよりアンドリー・コピロフ選手の入場です
Okay, Andrei Kopylov could easily pass for an accountant or somebody's father. I don't want to say grandfather because he's, you know, only, 37 years old. But this guy goes to the ground and grabs your leg. Man, you better get out of it quick because he's the master of Sambo.
Yeah, he's going to try to snap it off. 37 years old, you say, huh?
37.
Wow.
37 years old.
Quadros then makes the poignant statement of not letting Kopylov get a hold of your leg on the ground, a reference to his exploits at the King of Kings 99 tournament. Remember what I said earlier? In the ring, Kopylov looks fucking ridiculous.
187センチ、120キロ。アンドレイ・コピー
Andrei Kopylov has stated clearly Mario Sperry can give no kind of threat to him.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, we're going to see if stamina can play a factor because even though there's only 1 year difference between the two guys.
You can see the resentment and rage building in Kopylov's eyes at this tanned, muscular, handsome, charming Brazilian standing before him. I'm predicting Kopylov wants to destroy something beautiful tonight. There's apparently a weight advantage for Kopylov. Quadros says it's 50 pounds or something. Sperry, it appears, has chosen not to enforce the 10-kilo handicap rule, which would have disallowed knees and kicks to the head of a downed opponent. As for the fight, in round 1, Sperry distracts with an overhand right and tries to grab Kopylov, who scares him away with dad punches. The men mix it up and Kopylov does not appear to know how to fight at all. He dives for the legs of Sperry, who sprawls and knees him, and Kopylov is forced to pull guard. Sperry is briefly in guard, then stands, then hilariously tries to jump back onto Kopylov, who kicks him away. Sperry does get back down on top of Kopylov and is in half guard. He's working a triangle. He doesn't get much of it. He's also working his way to side control. Boss and Quadros talk a bit about Sperry versus Ninja Hua, and Sperry slips to side control. Kopylov spins out from underneath Sperry, but Sperry is right on him, getting back on top in half guard. Sperry then begins to rain down shots, but they aren't super effective. Then Sperry does again, with lefts and rights now too. Kopylov rolls to his stomach. Sperry swings around to a front headlock position, knees. Kopylov escapes, tries to stand, but gets knocked down. Sperry pounces on him, and we're in the corner. The ref moves him to the center of the ring. Kopylov has some bruising around his left eye. Sperry goes buck wild with punches. Kopylov, tries light punches here and there, but he should just give up on that. Really focus on controlling Sperry. His wrist, trapping his hands, working for reversals. Kopylov slips an incoming punch, rolls. Sperry is all over him in knees. Kopylov is forced to pull guard again. Sperry once again beats Kopylov, who tries to escape and roll, Sperry kicking him, and Kopylov instinctively tries to grab the foot, but Sperry slips away. Dang, almost Kopylov, almost.
He's playing a real good game here.
Yes, he is.
Look at this. Oh, no, that's... Oh, nice. Leg lock, and he gets on. You see, he knew that he was going to go for the leg lock.
I think Kopylov has his lip split from the kick. It gets checked by the doctor, and I'm saying it now, just stop the fight. Just stop it. Kopylov is not, and I repeat, not going to pull out any surprises. He can barely defend himself. This is embarrassing, and I am so disappointed, as I am a secret Andrei Kopylov mark. I really hate the fact that Sperry is a good fighter, and Kopylov is shit. And I get my wish. The bell rings. Sperry raises his arms, and he thusly is declared the victor via doctor stoppage in the first round.
It doesn't look that bad, or black or something, but not white. I mean,
Oh, God, fight's over.
Fight's over.
Yeah, something wrong with him. Now he felt it also. He thinks it's total domination here. Mario Sperry. Beautiful fight.
Man, Sperry just
kicking.
He just blasted him right out of here.
Sperry celebrates, and Kopylov, well, I think he still wanted to fight, but honestly, this is for the best. This fight was okay, maybe not as good as Herring versus Kochkine. Kopylov, he wasn't really game. I was disappointed in Stern Dad. I was so excited to see him fight in Pride. He let me down. I give this fight a 6 out of 10. After the fight, Sperry shakes hands with Antonio Inoki, then gives a bow and handshake for Hiromichi Momose. I don't have enough time to fully tell you about Hiromichi Momose. A son of a Yakuza mobster, he spent time in jail and is one of the money men behind Pride. I assume he is still close to the Yakuza. Sperry leaves, he's very sweaty, and it's time for the next fight. So what becomes of our two furious beaters, you wonder? We'll see Sperry again at Pride Shockwave 2003, where he takes on surprise debuting Yuki Kondo. I'm looking forward to that fight for sure. As for Stern Dad, well, this was it for him, not only in Pride, but professionally as a fighter as well. Kopylov would continue to be a trainer at Russian Top Team. And well, that's all I can really say about Andrei Kopylov. Godspeed, Stern Dad. Next up, it's Quadros with my favorite interviewee, Rampage Jackson. I know he's from the ghetto, and I'm not some insulated honky, but I do laugh whenever I hear him talk. Rampage would make the worst play-by-play commentator, but the best color man.
You're going to be fighting a guy who's considered a heavyweight in Vovchanchyn. Does that pose a lot of emotional risk to you?
Yeah, it do. You know, this be my first time fighting somebody as big and as skilled and as quick as Vovchanchyn is, you know, but I gotta step up, you know. I can't be fighting these paperweights forever, you know what I'm saying? One day, you know what I'm saying, I want to be the best fighter of the top 10.
Then we see Igor Vovchanchyn, a man of few words and even fewer interviews. He actually has some things to say, though, but I don't really trust the translation here.
Now, you're going to be fighting a wild man in Quentin Jackson, and he's a wrestler, and you're a kickboxer. Do you think that equation is going to make for an exciting fight?
Я думаю, что будет бой нормальный, зрелищный, но не надо меня пугать после перерыва. Меня запугивают уже, говорят, страшный. Я постараюсь никого не разочаровать. То есть я сам не знаю, на что я готов после перерыва. Я отдохнул, полон сил. Я думаю, что будет хороший бой. То есть приятно будет зрелище.
Quadros calls this the main event for U.S. fans, implying U.S. fans don't give a shit about high-end Gracie and Shungo Oyama. Yeah, that sounds about right. We also get one last bit of Rampage.
One more time. Then he'll get that jab. He'll get that jab, then, you know. You want some more?
No, that's fine. You go ahead and take that, you know.
All right.
Okay, there he is. He's Rampage. He's Quentin Jackson. Good to see you, brother.
Oh, okay.
It's Igor Vovchanchyn, 29 years old, with a record of 56-1 no contest, versus Quentin Rampage Jackson, 24 years old, with a record of 4-3. We last saw Igor at Pride 19 in February of 2002, where he lost to Heath via decision, and Rampage was last seen at Pride 20 in April, where he slammed the Masake Satake into oblivion and out of Pride forever. Since then, Igor has not fought at all, but Rampage has fought once in the US at King of the Cage. Revolution! He beat Sean Black Mamba Gray via TKO in the third round. Black Mamba, an Alabama native, didn't have much of a career with 11 fights between 2000 and 2003, going 5-6. Kai Grant has assumed the ring announcing duties as he is the premier Pride ring announcer. We do get Igor's walkout, but Rampage is already in the ring. In the ring, Rampage looks like a G, and Igor is slimmed down. He's lost in the neighborhood of 15 pounds, and at the time, he was clearly in the midst of a weight class drop, which is a good idea for him. Igor is a small heavyweight at around 230 pounds, so dropping to Pride's middleweight division, which is 205 pounds, is for the best.
Ohhara, 183センチ、102キロ、Quinton Rampage Jackson!
Now this is taking the dentistry aspect of mouthpieces to a new level. Yeah, he's got that Mike Tyson tooth out there in the mouthpiece.
That's what he did. And that he told us before. Watch my mouthpiece.
But no doubt that Igor Vovchanchyn is going to aim that left hook at that little black mark on Quinton's mouthpiece.
At the stare down, something very peculiar happens as Rampage Jackson produces a letter from his trunk and gives it to Igor Vovchanchyn. Wait, what?
Maybe it's severe talking, Marge, but you got a butt that won't quit. They got these big chewy pretzels here that are all...
I'm not sure what was on the letter, though the cameraman does try and get a glimpse of what it's on there, and I do see some Japanese writing as well as Rampage Jackson's name on it. I don't think Igor Vovchanchyn can read either Japanese or English, so Rampage Jackson failed on all fronts. As for the fight in round 1, Rampage jukes his way toward Igor, jabs to try and grab Igor, and Igor swings away. Rampage has got a hold of him. Igor knees, thinks of a trip. They whip around the ring, Rampage kneeing, then the ref separates them for some action. Stiff kick by Igor. Rampage comes in and grabs Igor, and the men trade knees. Against the ropes, the ref separates them again. Igor moves in with lefts and rights. Rampage backs away. Igor comes forward and fires a head kick. Rampage is against the ropes, throws a punch, and Igor counters, then grabs a diving Rampage by the neck. He, for some reason, decides to pull guard for a guillotine, and Rampage lifts him up and spikes him down, and Quadro screams like a girl.
See that too much.
Roman's the liver shot.
Oh! Vovchanchyn blasting in and getting...
Look at this! Oh!
Rampage is in side control. Quadros defends the spike slam, saying that if they add too many rules, then the sport, MMA that is, will just become full contact karate.
And he tries to throw the people on the head, as you notice.
Well, he wants to end the fight.
Yeah. And that's a way to end it.
Well, you know, it's not a tennis match, it's mixed martial arts, and unless you add so many darn rules that it becomes like a full contact karate fight.
Quadros, what a guy. He plugs Rampage Jackson's sponsors.
Jackson on top. He would like to thank KMS Wheels, Peter and Hector, who made him his unbreakable mouthpiece, and Kenny Knoll of UnderworldMedia.com, and of course, the man himself, SureDog.com.
How many commentators would stop the play-by-play in the middle of a fight to plug your fucking shit? Maybe Rampage threatened to, quote, kick his cracker ass if he didn't. Rampage jumps in the mount, postures up, throws down some punches. Igor tries to buck him off, but Rampage's base is too good. Igor is in a bad spot, and Rampage tees off. At the 5-minute mark, Igor rolls and dislodges Rampage. They both stand. Igor fires punches. Rampage grabs him again and lifts him, slamming him down, and Igor, with his right arm out to brace his fall, folds awkwardly. Ouch, that looks like it hurt.
There you go. Oh, look at this escape. Beautiful.
Beautiful bucket. Vovchanchyn blasting away.
God, and he throws him again.
Rampage works from guard, then Igor rolls for Rampage's right leg, a knee bar. It briefly looks tight, then Rampage is out of it. Igor rolls away and he's on his back. In the ropes, Rampage hammers down on Igor. The ref comes in to move the fighters. Igor looks frustrated. Igor has a gash on the bridge inside of his nose, maybe. Rampage returns to grinding down onto Igor from guard, and then out of nowhere, after a small body shot, Igor winces, maybe taps the mat once, grabs his stomach. Rampage stands, the bell is ringing, and that's it. Rampage Jackson is declared the winner at 7 minutes, 17 seconds of the first round.
Jackson won't let him. What happened? What happened?
What happened?
Oh, he hit him to the body. He hit him to the body. Something happened. He hit him to the body.
Woo-hoo, man.
Whoa, what is it?
Oh, man.
Something happened.
He broke his ribs or something.
I think so, too.
This is miraculous, to say the least. A lot of people, including myself. Now,
Quinton has been sprawling everybody lately.
Kind of a strange ending to our fight, but Igor absorbed a lot of damage in a short time, and Rampage put a beating on him. For sure, Igor is not the man he used to be only 2 years earlier, and yet he's only 29 years old at this point. I won't say that the sport has passed him by. Rampage doesn't possess any unique skill that Igor couldn't handle. I think it has to do with Igor's body having sustained a lot of wear and tear. He's had just about 60 pro fights. I think he came into the sport too early, back when it was a fledgling, brutal sport that didn't have a lot of payoff. It definitely was not worth it, and it wasn't until coming into Pride that Igor started to make some good money. Again, Igor is only 29 years old. It's not like he's a past his prime 37-year-old. In a 7-year span, though, Igor has had 2 full MMA career worth of fights. I did really like this fight, though. It had a lot of tension, and I was definitely invested in it. That's what makes a good fight for me. And although I was disappointed in Igor's performance, because I do love me some Igor Vovchanchyn, I have to say Rampage looked awesome. I give this fight an 8 out of 10. Well, what would become of our 2 ghetto-blasting bangers here, you wonder? Rampage returns first at Pride 25 when he takes on Kevin Randleman. That should be a good fight. Igor takes a little longer to return, maybe to heal up. He wouldn't return to fighting action until June of 2003 when he makes a stop in Amsterdam for an It's Showtime event where he takes on Dirty Bob Schreiber. Then in August of 2003 he comes back to Pride for Shockwave 2003 where he takes on Mirko Cro Cop. Up next, it's Quadros with no shame in proving himself to be one of the biggest crackers you've ever seen.
I am Grace, boa noite.
Ryan Gracie then says something that sounds very gay when viewed out of context.
Taco que queria brigar comigo. Se ele quer brigar comigo, ele pode depois da luta se trancar num quarto e a gente sair na porrada a hora que ele quiser.
Shungo apparently challenged Ryan Gracie to a street fight. Reasons why he would do such a thing, unknown. Doesn't he know the Gracies and their penchant for gangland street fights? Quadros is also predicting a knockout. And so, fight fans, this is it. The main evento for Pride 22, Beasts from the East 2. It's Shungo Oyama, 28 years old with a record of 2-3, taking on Ryan Gracie, who was also 28 years old, and his record was 1-2. We last saw Shungo at the previous Pride 21, Demolition, where Shungo had defeated Ryan's brother Renzo Gracie via decision. Ryan was last seen all the way back at Pride 15, where in a rematch against Tokumishu Ichizawa, an injury occurred to Ryan and the fight had to be stopped. No walkouts for this one either. Both men are already in the ring. Ryan Gracie has a band-aid over his left nipple. Boss speculates it was a piercing that he had to cover up. I am skeptical of that.
Pride 22本日のメインイベント明治生命ライフアカウント LA スペシャルマッチを行います青コーナー174センチ90キロハイアングレイシー
He's got something on his pec muscle. I don't know if he cut himself shaving or
maybe it's a body piercing and they cover it up. That they cannot pull it out and then you cover it up with a tape.
And what we have here is a good old-fashioned grudge match when you put a Gracie against a judo guy.
Hidehiko Yoshida, who was earlier in the corner of Michiyoshi Ohhara, is also in Shungo's corner. Intense stare-down happens, and it looks like Ryan is ready to explode. I really hope Ryan follows up on all his tough talk, but we're gonna see. When the bell rings, the men charge at each other. Shungo punches, and Ryan does the most Gracie thing possible. He shoots down for the hips.
What's gonna happen here?
Whoa! Wow! Wow!
Ryan is on top in side control, and then he just holds Shungo down. Wow, I'm very disappointed. For all that tough talk, this is the result. Why are you hugging him so intensely if you hate him so much? Oyama knees and Ryan holds him, then Ryan goes for mount. As Oyama tries to push him away, it's a bad idea leaving one's arm outstretched and exposed like that, especially for a BJJ practitioner. But Oyama does it again with a stiff right arm in the chest of Ryan, and he pushes Ryan down and over, and now Oyama is on top. Ryan just missed his chance for an armbar right there. Oyama stands over Ryan, then falls down on top of him with a flailing punch. But whoops, now Ryan does grab the right arm, stretches it out. Oyama winces, and we can't see from this angle, but his arm is bent the wrong way. Maybe he can't tap. The ref comes over to stop the fight. Maybe it was a verbal tap. I am not sure.
Quentin Jackson's mount was something else.
Oh, nice reversal. Armbar coming. Armbar, he's got it. Oh my God, he's got it right. He's got to pull it out, he's got it. Oh!
and Gracie is thus the victor after 1 minute, 37 seconds of the first round. and Gracie is paraded around the ring. Oyama's right arm might have snapped, so they give him a blue belt to sling it up. Unseen to us, Hyan lifts up Naoto Morishita, Dream Stage Entertainment president. Hyan then hoists his brother Henzo up, and then that does it for the main event. This fight was okay. It wasn't the best main event, and I now agree with Quadros in his statement that Rampage vs. Igor was actually the main event for US fighting fans. I just don't see either Hyan or Shungo as real stars, or being able to carry a card all by themselves. Ask yourself this, if this fight was the main event, and every other fighter was some random Japanese loser versus some random American loser from King of the Cage, would you buy that pay-per-view? Probably not. Anyway, this fight was a quick result. I wasn't really into it though. I give it a 6 out of 10. You must be wondering what would become of our two Super Saiyan shooters here. Well, I'm going to tell you. Shungo Oyama returns to us at Pride 25 where he takes on Dan Henderson. Ouch? ? That's in March of 2003. Hyan returns at Bushido 1 in October of 2003, where he takes on Kazuhiro Hamanaka, a Japanese fighter who actually makes his debut at Pride 26 against Elvis Shembri. After the main event, Hyan douses himself with some type of liquid, then leaves, shaking Boss and Quadros' hand at the commentator's booth as he exit, as the two of them give thumbs up and congratulate him and Henzo. Then strange Japanese men are seen grabbing and hugging a dripping wet Hyan, a visual that might haunt my nightmares. Quadros then plugs Championship Chaos 2 and closes out the broadcast of Pride Beasts from the East 2. But before we cut to black, we get one last bit featuring Boss Rutan and Kevin Randleman.
Who is the most best-looking fighter you ever faced in any kind of martial arts, in the ring or in a cage or on the street?
I think that'd have to be you, Boss.
Oh, thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. Now, let's go to the fight of tonight. You're going to face this guy.
I won that fight, right?
Excuse me?
When we fought, I did win that fight, right? We can be honest.
Right. Tonight, you got to go, hey, okay, listen, okay? There were judges, 3 judges, 2 judges were for me, 1 was for you. Ta-da! You do the math, who was the winner there, okay? It was very close, I give you that, but I was the winner. So let's go, just be professional. And you know what? I just don't like to be touched. Could you just don't touch me, okay? A woman will be okay because I'm a guapo, but a man, no, thank you very much. So let's go back. Okay, Ohhara. But I told you not to touch me, okay? Jesus!
And that's a wrap on Pride 22, Beasts from the East 2. Overall, this was a good event. I would put it in the top half of the rankings in terms of Pride events. There have been about 26 events when you count the 2000 Grand Prix 2-parter and the 2 The Best shows. So yeah, I would say this event probably lands around number 10 or number 9 in terms of ranking, maybe a little higher. I think all the fights were enjoyable, except maybe Ohhara versus Randleman, which was definitely the worst fight on the card. And the best fight would have to be Rampage versus Vovchanchyn. And I would recommend this as a show that you should go out and check in full for yourself. And that will do it for this episode of Pride Resurrection. I do apologize for the varying quality on this one. I did not record the audio in one session, and I did not edit the audio in one session either. So that means the audio quality is not very consistent, but I will sort that out in the near future. I edited this episode over about 2 weeks as time permitted due to a new addition to my family. Time has been very short, and I hope you appreciate my efforts to keep the dream of Pride Never Die alive. I would never ask or beg for donations, but if you feel so inclined, then head over to the Pride Resurrection BitChute channel and check out the tipping feature that is available there. YouTube, if you didn't know, has demonetized the entire channel, and even super chats are unavailable, so your options for potentially donating are limited. And since I don't really like asking for donations, and I guess I don't really need them other than a gentle reminder that you do appreciate my work, maybe a better option, and let me know in the comments if you think this would be a good option, would be to sell some custom printed posters like the ones you are seeing right now. If you would be interested, that would be a good way to help support my work. And it would allow me to purchase even more stuff that I can turn into posters, like this awesome Pride 2 program, which I decided to buy because it just looked totally awesome. Who doesn't love a giant blown up face of Mark Kerr? Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. Hopefully, I'll be able to keep up with the forthcoming reviews. I'm going to try my best to get out 1 review a month. We'll see how that works out. The next review is going to be Pride 23 Championship Chaos number 2. And some of the fights we will see for that one is Don Fry taking on Hidehiko Yoshida. Heath Herring takes on Fedor Emelianenko. Vanderlei Silva defends his belt against a debuting Hiromitsu Kanehara. And Nobuhiko Takada, the great one himself, finally returns in his last ever pro fight when he takes on Kiyoshi Tamura. Looks like a good card. I'm definitely pumped for it. Hopefully you are. Until then, I must bid you adieu, fight. I am the most dangerous man alive today, and will sniff you fucking jerks later.